Hi, Michael Ritchie here to introduce the new version of AdminExile, version 3.3 as of this video. This time is presented in 720p. So the biggest difference between the previous version, which was 2.3.7 I think, the biggest difference between that and this new version is that the functionality has been split. AdminExile is now both a free and a paid version. But I really tried to put a lot of functionality into the free version so that it still remains useful and a viable security tool for your website. So let's start with the free version. A lot of this interface is going to look really familiar. I had to rewrite it in order to accommodate the new Joomla 3 interface requirements and new field types and all that. Before, I had to write some of my own stuff to hide and show form fields, and in Joomla 3 that became built in, but AdminExile hadn't been rewritten specifically for Joomla 3. Now it has, and we've gained lost a tremendous amount of code that now Joomla handles, and I've been able to turn that into a much faster extension. So anyone who's used it before, this is all going to look really familiar. It's just been rewritten for the new interface. For those of you who have not seen this before, who are new to AdminExile, let me explain what it does. It protects your administrator login form. So this stupidly long address here is the address of my AdminExile development system on my local host here, but this would normally be the address that I would type in order to access administrator, this up to that question mark. That would normally be the address. So you would replace localhost Joomla development AdminExile. You would replace that with your domain name. So www.yourwebsite.com/administrator would be that section right there. Normally, when you access that URL with Joomla, unless you're using a security tool like AdminExile, Joomla will display the admin login form. And myself and a lot of other people think that that's a bad thing, because that opens up that login form for brute force attack. Why allow someone to even know that the door exists? Which is why AdminExile is here. So AdminExile adds an additional requirement to that admin URL. In order to access the URL, in order to see the login form, you must provide a key and or key plus value, and that is configured here in these first three configuration settings here. URL access key, use key plus value toggle, and then the key value itself. So as you manipulate these settings, this URL here will automatically adjust to compensate for those changes. So I can change AdminExile to admin, and admin equals locked. You can add just about anything here. The plugin will object if you put in something that it doesn't like, something that it won't allow, something that a URL can't accept. So, like, you can't put a question mark in there because a question mark has a special relevance within a URL. You can't put an ampersand. You can't put an equal sign, because all of these characters, there are about 20 something characters that cannot be in a URL because they have special meaning within a URL. So AdminExile actively prevents you from using those things. One other thing to note is that you can't start the key, pardon me, that's not right. You can't have a key that is only a number, but you can have a key that begins with a number. In order to prevent that from happening, what it is you have to type the whole key first without the beginning number, and then go back and add the number to it. So you see that it's objecting to having just the number as the key, and that is to protect you. Joomla does not allow that, therefore AdminExile doesn't allow you to make that setting, so you can't log yourself out. Yay. What happens when someone types in the administrator URL without the key? That is where the failure response comes in. And you have three options. The first option is to redirect to the home page. So they arrive at the admin URL without the keys, they're immediately sent to the home page. Additionally, when someone fails to authenticate AdminExile, AdminExile prevents the administrator URL from setting the Joomla session cookie. So it tries to mask any trace that something exists at administrator other than a redirect. As far as the home page or the custom destination goes, the only thing that would allow them to know that something really exists there is that they get redirected. Something was at least watching that address. Counterfeit 404. This is the one that I prefer, but some people don't, which is why the other two options exist. The counterfeit 404. What I did was I took the HTML from an actual default Apache 404 and put it into this field. You can customize it all you like. You can make it match the other 404s on your server if you're running a custom 404 solution. But there are a couple of replacement placeholders here. So URL and server signature are actually pulled from your server so that they match any other 404 document on your server. So not only is the 404 status code sent, but also the page adjusts to mimic what your server would normally output with those key replacement fields in there. Custom destination is just like it sounds. Instead of redirecting to the home page, you're going to redirect to some other page. So maybe you're going to send them someplace that'll make the hair on their neck stand up, like NSA.gov, or you could send them someplace nasty and mean, like to the URL of a Linux ISO image, and let them choke on a 650 meg download. Personally, I think that was pretty funny. But counterfeit 404, that's what I suggest. There's no specific reason you can't choose the others. They're all equally blocking. So front-end restrictions. This is something that I also built for myself. Quite a few other people like this. This feature allows you to specify user groups that are not allowed to log in to the front end of the website. So in addition to protecting the administrator login URL from brute force attack, if someone were to figure out your admin usernames, they could use the front end login module in order to initiate a brute force attack. So in order to mitigate that, I've got this feature here where you choose groups that are not allowed to log into the front end. So even if they were to do a brute force on the front end, and they were to even by accident guess the correct password, this setting would prevent that login from occurring. Link recovery. This is enabled by default. It's enabled with super users, configured by default, because this is the #1 support request that I get. I have forgotten my access key, or I typed in my key and now it doesn't work, which is always, so far it's never been a programming problem. It's always been a typo. Someone thought they typed one thing and they actually typed another, and they locked themselves out, and then it is what it is. And then I have to tell them how to go to the help documentation and walk them through recovering from this failure, because there's no backdoor in through AdminExile. Didn't build one for myself, didn't build one for you. It's not there. This link recovery option is detailed in the documentation. Take a look at it. I believe it's labeled link recovery. There's a key you add to the URL in administrator, and it's that key plus your username, your super user username, or whatever group you've qualified in this configuration. You put that username in, and the system will email you a link, the access link here. It'll email you this link. So it's useful for people who forget their keys, or for me, I've got dozens of sites that I work on, and none of them have the same keys. If I forget, then then I can type in a special URL and I get an email. Failure logs. This is something that's new. By default, it's off. They're really mostly going to be useful for people who run their own servers. I take the output of the failure logs and pipe that into fail to ban. So if somebody initiates an attack and fails enough times, they get banned entirely by their IP address for the duration that I have set up in fail to ban. And super convenient. But for those who don't run their own servers, who don't have that expertise or that capability to run fail to ban or to run extra security software on their servers, that's who the Pro version is for. So let's get into the Pro version real quick. Now the Pro version is two parts. There is the Ajax extension and there is the system extension. You can see that over here, Ajax and system. And what it is the Ajax extension allows me to do live updates on the stats of different parts, and we'll get into that here in a second, but it's restricted to only be used by logged in users who are capable of editing the plugin configuration. So it's really not useful anywhere but within AdminExile configuration. So you can save yourself a little bit of I guess CPU. If you didn't want to enable the Ajax plugin, then you just won't get the live updates for usage. In fact, let me turn both of those on right now so we can take a look at exactly what that looks like. On the plugin tab of the Pro version, the only thing different is this download ID. When you subscribe to AdminExile for 12 months, you'll get a download ID, and you'll have access to updates and support for the duration of your subscription. If you choose to use the download ID, there's an extra plugin that will enable this download ID to provide all the necessary credentials for your website to run automatic updates through the Joomla updater. If you don't want to use the Joomla updater, then you don't have to install the second plugin. You will still receive update notifications. They just won't update through the updater. You'll have to come to the website and download the updates manually. IP security. This is one of the places where the Ajax plugin is operational here. And as you can see, I have one address in the blacklist. I've blocked a single IP address, so I've used the 32 CIDR netmask to indicate a single IPv4 address. There's a place in here to add notes. It's optional completely. And then over here, matches. This will remain blank if you choose to leave the Ajax plugin disabled, but if you enable it, then you get a 5-second interval update on any failures to authenticate to this server. So I've got my iPad in my hand here, and I just keep hitting refresh because I'm on the blacklist. It will not allow me in, and you can see that the matches keep going up. It's really kind of cool on a public server where you've got bots and jerks trying to access your admin panel, but you've got them blocked. I find myself blocking entire net blocks of networks in China. But that's where this netmask really comes in handy, is that you can block entire networks. So an entire Class C network, so 192.168.200.0 through 255 is a /24. If you don't know about how CIDR works, go to Wikipedia. It's super cool, very powerful, and that's why I included it as a capability within AdminExile. So I alter my firewall rule to block the entire 200 netmask, and as you see, it's blocking from other devices here. Now that is anyone on this network that attempts to access this admin panel gets blocked. This doesn't affect the front end of the site. AdminExile only monitors the front end restrictions for the front end. AdminExile's primary function is to protect the back end of your website. So the whitelist operates in a similar way to the blacklist, except it doesn't block. It allows access without the keys. So if you have, for example, a corporate network that has a static IP range, you could whitelist that whole range, which would grant you access without the keys while you're at work, but then while you're out and about, you would have to have the keys in order to access it to maintain that level of security while roaming. Along with login failures, a separate type of log is given when a user fails blacklist. So you can block those separately through fail to ban if you choose. All right, so moving on to the brute force tab. Brute force operates in a similar manner to the blacklist, except that you're able to get a few failures in before the system blocks you. And unlike the blacklist, the block is temporary. Although temporary is kind of a flexible word because of the way that the brute force configuration works here. So there is the detection threshold, the penalty duration, and the penalty multiplier. And these three numbers together work to determine what your penalty is. So what happens is, say you fail to authenticate 5 times. The default threshold multiplier is always 1. Or if you have exceeded the threshold, then it is the number of failures minus the threshold. So it's 1 on the first failure. Pardon me, on the 5th failure. It's a 1 on the 6th failure. It's 2 on the 7th. It's 3 on the 8th. So it's the number of failures minus the threshold multiplied by the duration multiplied by the multiplier. So you could have a penalty duration of 10 minutes and a multiplier of 5. So you could really cause the users to rack up some serious penalty time. And what that means is that they're unable to authenticate, even with the correct keys. They're unable to authenticate through AdminExile authorization, which means that if they begin their brute force attack, they will be blocked after the threshold is met, after they hit 5 failures or 10 or whatever that configuration is. They'll be blocked after they hit that many failures, and then each additional failure causes their penalty duration to be extended. So it would be nearly impossible for them to brute force your site without knowing what that penalty duration was and what your detection threshold was, because the only way for them to brute force it would be to hit it the threshold minus 1 and then wait 24 hours for that to be cleared out. The logs they're only valid for 24 hours, unless there is a duration, and then it's valid for the length of the duration of the length of the penalty. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like here. I've got my iPad again. We've turned off the blacklist, so I just need to fail 3, 4, 5. There it is. So I've got 5 failures: penalty start, penalty end, and what it is it's the threshold, which I'm at the threshold, so my multiplier there is 1 times 5 times 2 is 10 minutes. So from 14 to 24. Each time I fail, that duration gets longer. $34, $44, And another thing about the failures is that each time they fail, the start time for their penalty is moved up to now. So it's not like they can fail and the whole time their penalty is ticking off, even while they're adding more penalty. Their penalty gets reset. So it's not like they could wait 4 minutes and 59 seconds and fail again and have, wait 9 minutes and 59 seconds and fail again and still have just one more 10-minute penalty. No. It now resets it so they've got that original 10-minute penalty plus the additional penalty that's added on to it. So it's not nice. I mean, it really is designed to make it difficult to penetrate the system. And to my knowledge, no one has ever penetrated it. So I welcome the attempts. In the event that you get somebody who's locked themselves out, I put this nifty little delete button here that takes them out of the list and takes them out of the database, so that they can try again. People get click happy. They start clicking on something, or they get a failure and they just hit refresh a dozen times, and that's no good. As an admin, you've got that capability to flush someone out of the brute force detection. And like IP security, once they have failed brute force, once they've been caught by the brute force blocker, then it sends logs if enable failure logs is turned on. So that's the new AdminExile. All the new features are available for download now, and the Pro version is available for purchase on Richie.